So in my video where it was an Egyptian woman holding up a friend of hers African baby and talking about how this chocolate is not for sale, but saying that this is a gift from God, and people completely did not listen to my end of the video where I was talking. This is a primary comment that I got. They colonized Egypt first. Those are not real Egyptians. They are Arab colonizers that's been there since the 12th century. And they are very racist towards black Africans that are still in that country. You are demonstrating two things to me in these comments. One, you are picking and choosing who are original people and who are not. Did the Arabs eventually colonize Egypt? Yes, they did. Much sooner than the 12th century, actually. Because that would be in the 1300s. They actually colonized it much earlier than that, when the Arab nation came across in the 600s. So it was much sooner than that. But why didn't you say anything about the Greeks when they colonized it? Or the Romans when they colonized it? Or the Cushites when they colonized it? Oh, you forgot about that part. You forgot that there was a time frame when Egypt was a more of a mixed, diverse group, and then for 137 years they were colonized by the Kushite people from Sudan, current modern day Sudan, that they colonized them. So we like to jump in and say, ooh, we're going to pick that time frame, and we're going to stick with that time frame and say what real Egyptians are. Now, I looked at both of y'all profile, and both of y'all seem to be from America. But are you real Americans? Or did your family at some point come to America? Even if you call yourself an indigenous American, which most of you cannot even claim that, you don't have any paperwork or you don't have any DNA that shows that you are originally from America, even there was a time frame when nobody was in America. The illegals always here? No. Tens of thousands of years? Sure. But tens of thousands of years is not always. It's not always. And nobody was here during Pangea. No one was here during Pangea. So don't even bother with that one. But if a person is born in a country, and their parents were born in that country, and their grandparents were born in that country, and their great-grandparents were born in that country, and so on and so forth, they are of that country. Just because their group of people are the winners of that country right now does not make them not of that country. Because at some point, people have moved around to different countries and colonized different countries. I don't think that there's one country in the world that has not had one empire take over. Now, and I know somebody gonna say that Ethiopia was never colonized. It was never colonized by Europeans, true. But the Axiom Empire did have to come into power at some point. So therefore, there were other tribal ethnic groups that were in power in different parts of the land before the Axiom Empire took over. So there is a continuous system of conquered and conquering. But most people can't seem to understand that because they can't look past the scope of their skin, or they can't look past the scope of more modern, recent history. And that's what you need to be able to do, instead of looking at it that way. And unless you've been to Egypt, unless you've studied Egypt, unless you know a whole lot about how things are in Egypt right now, you can't make this blanket claim of how they are towards African. Do you know the policies that are in place in Egypt that are for or against black people? Do you know the social situations that are for or against African people there? Or are you still holding on to how things were in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s? Is that what you're holding on to? Because I know people do that. Because when I speak of Rwanda, I get a bunch of people who still think that Rwanda is going through ethnic genocide, ethnic cleansing. That was 20 plus years ago. Well, 20 years ago. That shit's not happening anymore. It's been rectified. Rwanda is one of the most peaceful, most progressive nations in the country. Or in the world, sorry. But in the continent, definitely, but in the world. That it is a place that you can go to and live free of any type of ethnic cleansing or problems. But you don't know that about Egypt. I said in my previous video that when I was in Egypt, I didn't experience a bunch of racism. I don't know if that's because I was an American or what the situation was. But I know that I felt more comfortable in other countries than I do in America. That I don't concern myself. When I lived in Germany, I didn't concern myself with the police. When I went to Russia, didn't concern myself with the police. When I was in England, when I was in France, when I was in Italy, when I was in Greece, when I was in Israel, when I was in Jordan, when I was in Saudi Arabia, when I was in Dubai, when I was in Bahrain, when I was in Qatar, when I was in Kuwait, when I was in Oman, when I was in Yemen, I didn't have any problems with the police. I didn't have any problems with purchasing and buying things. I didn't have any problems with government. Now, did I live in each country long enough to be able to experience every aspect of it? No, I didn't. But do I know people who do? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I got friends and associates who live in pretty much every Arab nation. They're not being treated harshly. But does that mean that no one is being, everybody is free, everybody's great, everybody's good? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Because yes, there are racists everywhere. There are racist people in every country. Every country. You're going to find racist people. And there's a difference between racist people and racism. Racism is a system that is set up to go against a certain group of people based on something as superficial as skin tone. Whereas racists are individual people who are against groups of people based on skin tone. So yes, even a black person can be racist. And no, I can't think of a country where black people are instituting racism as a system against people. Some white people may say that about South Africa right now, or Zimbabwe. But on a whole, you can't claim it. So before you talk about a country, maybe you should go research the modern day, current day things that are going on in that country first. And stop picking and choosing where in history you want to start your argument. But you have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself. Because your greatness, it's not negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.